So this multimillionaire CEO throws a party and it's on an island in Italy, and the whole thing is themed like ancient Rome. It has a full-sized ice sculpture of Michelangelo's David that literally pees out expensive vodka. It has an archer who shoots a flaming arrow to light up a sign reading, "Congratulations, Karen and Dennis." But here's the thing, what the people there don't know is that this party was paid for with stolen money. Now, the guy's name is Dennis, and Dennis is 30 when all this starts, and he's living in New Hampshire. And Dennis, he really loves money, probably more than anyone we've ever talked about, and he's willing to do all kinds of illegal stuff to get his hands on some. I mean, see, he works as an accountant at a company called Tyco, and he's a great employee there. Like, he works really hard, and he is determined to succeed, and because of that, he starts working his way up the ranks. And so many years go by, and it's now 1992, and he's still working at Tyco, and by now he's worked his way up to become CEO. And as CEO, he gets aggressive and he starts using Tyco to buy up other companies. He buys up competitors, and he even buys up companies in totally unrelated industries. And some of these purchases fail, but others work extremely well, and these successes cause Tyco to grow rapidly. And over time, Dennis turns Tyco into a massive global conglomerate worth billions of dollars. And Dennis, he's kind of starting to get famous from all this. He gets ranked as one of the best CEOs in America. He starts appearing on like magazine covers and stuff. And of course, to reward him for all his efforts, the board decides to increase his salary. And he gets bumped up to $2.1 million a year plus stock options. So the dude is richer than he thought he would ever be. But apparently it's not rich enough for Dennis, because here's the thing about him. He has really expensive taste. Like, he loves driving nice cars and living in expensive houses and all that. And soon he starts feeling like the $2.1 million a year he's getting paid just isn't enough. He wants more. And here's where he starts to do shady stuff to get it. So one day in 1995, Dennis decides it's time to move Tyco's headquarters from New Hampshire over to Manhattan, New York. And during this relocation process, that is when he starts seeing this whole relocation thing as an opportunity to make some extra cash. So he goes to board members and he asks them to approve a relocation fund, which is money meant to help employees cover moving expenses and other costs. Nothing out of the ordinary. And the board members are like, all right. But behind the scenes, Dennis low-key sets up a second relocation plan. And through this secret second plan, millions of extra dollars start getting redirected straight to Dennis. And this works, and it works well. He basically steals a bunch of money from Tyco, and he doesn't get caught. So from this point on, Dennis starts looking for every possible way to pull money out of the company and put it in his own pocket. And one of those ways is through Tyco's key employee loan program, where the company will give loans to their executives. Anyway, Dennis basically takes this program and he turns it into a money printing machine for himself. And he takes out millions of dollars in loans for himself, and then he'll quietly make it so that the company forgives his own loans. And he does this over and over and over again. And if you're wondering, how does he get away with just taking all this money from the company? Doesn't anyone notice? Well, normally they would notice, but Dennis, he isn't doing all this alone. No. He's built an inner circle around a few of his executive buddies at the company, and they help him pull all of this off. And in return for their help, he gives them secret perks like unapproved bonuses and stuff so that all these guys stay quiet. And so to everyone who works at the company, none of this looks suspicious. And to the outside world, Tyco, the company, appears to be thriving. Like, they're making tons of profit year after year, all because of Dennis, their rockstar CEO. And because he is a legitimately good CEO, the board gives him a huge pay raise. So his salary jumps from $2.1 million a year up to $8.8 million a year, then to $67 million a year, and eventually to $170 million a year. So this dude makes $170 million a year, and he becomes known as the highest paid CEO in America during this time. And yet somehow $170 million a year apparently still isn't good enough for Dennis, because even as he's getting paid so well, he continues to look for ways to scam money out of the company. And here's where the story gets even crazier. The company Tyco decides to move its headquarters again. This time, instead of being located in Manhattan, it's going to be located in Boca Raton, Florida. And just like before, the company rolls out another relocation plan. And once again, Dennis quietly takes advantage of this relocation to funnel even more company money to himself and to his inner circle. And he does this for the next several years, treating the company accounts like his personal ATM and quietly pulling out millions without board approval. And so what does Dennis do with all this money he's stealing? Well, he buys himself a ton of stuff. He buys a $29 million mansion and a $30 million Manhattan apartment. He buys a $15 million yacht. He even spends money on ridiculous things like a $6,000 shower curtain and an umbrella stand shaped like a dog that costs $15,000. And at one point, he throws a massive toga-themed birthday party for his wife on the Italian island of Sardinia. And this party ends up costing $2 million to put on. And this party's crazy. It has Jimmy Buffett performing. It has a birthday cake in the shape of a life-size nude woman with exploding breasts. It has a full-sized ice sculpture of Michelangelo's David that literally pees out expensive vodka. It has an archer who shoots a flaming arrow to light up a sign reading, "Congratulations, Karen and Dennis." Not only that, but Dennis starts collecting artwork. Lots and lots of artwork. In fact, he spends over $13 million furnishing his Manhattan apartment, including a $3.9 million Renoir painting. Now, if using your company's money to buy a $6,000 shower curtain and Renoir paintings isn't bad enough, Dennis just can't stop being a turd because along with all that, he starts dodging taxes. And he does most of this through the purchase of those expensive ass paintings he buys. I mean, this guy, he's gotta feel unstoppable at this point, and rightfully so. I mean, he's gotten away with so much for so long, so it's starting to look like Dennis, he may never get caught until now. Here's where the whole thing starts to fall apart. One day around 2001, he decides to use Tyco to acquire a smaller company, and as a finder's fee, he secretly pays a board member a bribe of $20 million, and all this seems to go fine. Like, no one notices, but 6 months later, somehow a board member does notice, and so the whole board is super pissed and they aren't about to let this slide. So after all those years of success in making Tyco a global conglomerate worth billions, in 2002, the board finally forces Dennis to resign, and around the same time, the district attorney's office connects him to the tax evasion schemes tied to his art purchases, and he's indicted for tax evasion, and so, bam, Dennis gets arrested. Here's his mugshot. Months later, the board at Tyco launches their own internal investigation to protect the company and its shareholders. And after doing all that accounting, they discover that over the years, Dennis had stolen more than $600 million from Tyco. So anyway, he ultimately goes to trial and he's found guilty and he's sentenced to a minimum of 8 years in prison to a maximum of 25 years in prison.